If I hold this, no. And I've got the left ear on. You gonna cut this one off? You want to check this? No. I'm saying I have the left ear.
Oh, you do? Okay. So the audio guy set you up with that? Thank you. Sorry. How are you? Welcome.
With the National Committee.
Welcome.
When he gives a few words.
Check 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a test for audio.
Does he have it?
They asked me if the
Senator.
This is the senator.
This village.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, you should mic yourself up. Okay. Have you guys seen the audio visual guy? Brian? No, not our guy. The one with the ponytail. The one doing the ugly. Have a good show.
Thank you.
Then you'll scooch up when we start on.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? Good? All right. I'm Max Richmond. I'm the president and CEO of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. Thank you for joining us today. This town hall meeting is the second in a series of forums that we are holding around the country, along with our friends from AARP. And it is part of a set of forums that we call Social Security, Here Today, Here Tomorrow. It's part of a campaign, a national campaign. And before I go any further, I just want to tell you very quickly about our organization, the Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, founded 40 years ago by a former congressman from California by the name of James Roosevelt. He had retired from Congress, and he was worried about the future of Social Security, and he created this organization to preserve what he felt was his father's greatest legacy. His father was President Roosevelt. And we have, for 40 years, been committed to protecting and improving that program, Social Security, as well as President Lyndon Johnson's, I think, three greatest legacies: Medicare, Medicaid, and the Older Americans Act. So at this time, I'm going to be on the panel a little later, but it's an honor for me to introduce our esteemed moderator, Frankie Darcell. You probably know who she is. You've heard her on the radio, right? WDAS. You got a fan club here, Frankie. And not just in Philadelphia, but she's part of iHeart Media radio network. So you're not the only ones hearing Frankie. She's in 22 radio markets around the country. She is yes, give her a hand.
Thank you.
She's a proud graduate of Morgan State University and is also, besides a radio personality, an author, a theater director. What haven't you done, Frankie?
Nothing.
She's done everything. She has received many awards and been recognized by in the industry, the radio industry, and prominent elected officials and community leaders. And if I went into all those awards, we'd be out of time. So thank you, Frankie, for guiding us through this forum today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Now, I know everyone invited today was 25 and under, so give yourselves a round of applause. And you know when you really should be here when you realize that you always have to have your glasses with you, especially when you are AARP eligible. And I thank you back so much. And I want to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me from my lavalier mic? Can you hear me? All right, that's great. So we are in for an incredible program. Again, I thank you so much for being here. Good evening to you as we get started. We are honored to have with us as well a very special guest. He was raised by his mother, a public school teacher who instilled in him the value of hard work and getting a quality education. He began working at the age of 9 as a newspaper delivery boy and now serves as a Pennsylvania state senator for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Senator Art Haywood. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Wow, we got a lot of people here tonight.
Yes, wonderful.
How about that? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Next month, I get my first Social Security retirement check. This is after 57 years of work. Although some of that work did not count, it wasn't part of the payroll system. Now, in just over a few weeks, the Social Security Act will have an 88th anniversary. And we know that Social Security was all designed to preserve the dignity of individuals who at that time were really struggling to retire during the Great Depression. And retirement is all about retiring with dignity. Dignity means that we can retire with enough income to meet our day-to-day needs. Dignity means that we will have health care that can provide for us when we get sick. And dignity means that we'll still have some family and friends around to enjoy our lives. Now, we do know that our dignity in retirement is being threatened. Food prices going up, gas prices going up, utility prices going up. Millions of our friends and relatives, unfortunately, are living in poverty. This is why it is so important that you're having this session this evening to talk in detail about how Social Security is still there for us today, still providing solutions today. I do want to share that my office is working hard for making retirement with dignity possible. And we have legislation that will say that folks who are working can have automatic payroll deduction into a savings account for retirement. Is that a good idea? Automatic, so we don't have to make a decision every week or 2 weeks what we're going to do with our money. Now, I do want to especially thank all those who are going to provide the enlightenment this afternoon. I want to recognize my good friend, Representative Stephen Kinsey. Let's give him a round of applause for being here this evening. Thank you to Center in the Park, the host. This is a renowned, as you all know, this is a renowned senior center recognized across the United States. Thanks AARP for the consistent advocacy. I am a member of AARP. Yeah, that's right. Soon I will be amongst those getting the Social Security check, as I said at the outset. Thank you for all those who are going to provide information, and thank you for being a tremendous MC. But most of all, thank all of you for coming out. This is a town hall that's for you. It's not for me, it's for you. And I hope that you get something out of this that will benefit you in the days and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. I want to take an opportunity as well for all the fabulous people to look at the camera, because we are streaming live as well. And we want to thank all of the people who are, can we wave? Can we get the Miss America wave for the people so that they can see us around the country, streaming live to the National Committee that is watching us right now. We thank you for that. Thank you so much, Senator Haywood, for joining us this afternoon. The conversation that we're going to have tonight is going to be about the value of Social Security to all Americans, all ages, and specifically why Social Security is important to the African American community. To give you a better way and why we're holding this forum, we'll play for you right now a short video about the Social Security Here Today, Here Tomorrow campaign. Watch the video.
Thank God.
Without Social Security, I couldn't pay my bills.
If it weren't for my Social Security benefits, I'd be out on the street. Thank God for Social Security.
Social Security is going bankrupt.
Social Security won't be there when I need it.
Politicians are stealing from Social Security.
When should I claim benefits?
How much will my monthly benefit be?
What will my husband and children receive?
Can I collect Social Security if I'm still working?
For more information, visit socialsecurityheretoday.org.
Great information. You can give a round of applause for the video. Now, before I introduce our panel, I want to take a few minutes and just to make some acknowledgments and go over some housekeeping things and some items on behalf of the National Committee and AARP Pennsylvania. I'd like to express our gratitude to our hosts, Renee Cunningham, Cleo Smalls, and their colleagues here at the Center in the Park. Renee and Chloe's help has been invaluable, and we'd like to show our appreciation to you. Where are you? Are you in the room? Where are you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next, if you have not met him already, I'd like to recognize Richard Gudiasi, who is the public affairs specialist for the Social Security Administration's Philadelphia's region. Rich is here to answer your individual questions about Social Security. Rich, where are you? He's raising his hand in the back. Thank you so much. Good to have you here. Likewise, we have constituent service workers from the offices of Pennsylvania U.S. Senator Bob Casey and the Honorable Congressman Dwight Evans as well. Please welcome Andrea Guscott. Andrea, where are you? Andrea? Hi, Andrea. And also from the Honorable Senator Casey's office, Catherine Ziegler, who is here. Catherine, where are you? Okay, and Catherine, and your name is? Let's say the Honorable Congressman Dwight Evans. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Like Rich, we can help you with a lot of Social Security questions that you may have this evening. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to the cards that were in your seats when you came in. Did you see the card and the ink pen that was in your seat? Please use those cards to write your name and any questions that you might have that for our speakers as we move forward with the program. The aisle to one of the national committees or AARP staff, you see him raising his hand in the middle. You can pass them to him. Our speakers, after they finish their remarks, will try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. And we know that you have quite a few. Please don't be shy. We want to know some of those questions and can get you some of those answers if time permits. So now let me briefly introduce to you our panel. First, our friends, Sarah Martinez and Allison Schilling, who are with us, Community Legal Services here in Philadelphia. Sarah Martinez is a staff attorney in the Health and Independent Unit of Community Legal Services, where she assists clients in assessing and maintaining eligibility for federal and state administered public benefits, such as supplemental security income and supplemental nutritional assistance program, or SNAP. Allison Schilling is a social worker also in Health and Independence Unit of the Community Legal Services, where she helps preserve income independence for older adults. Please welcome as well Carolyn Colvin, was President Obama's acting commissioner of Social Security during his administration. As Social Security Commissioner, Carolyn oversaw one of the largest agencies in the federal government. With more than 60,000 federal employees nationwide, During Carolyn's tenure, her agency paid out, and some of you might be in the room, more than $800 billion each year in monthly Social Security benefits to more than 60 million recipients. If you would please give a round of applause to our panelists that I have introduced so far. You also had the opportunity early to meet Max Richman, who is president and CEO of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, one of the nation's leading advocates for Social Security and Medicare. Max is a prominent expert on senior issues and a former staff director of the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging. So now that we have introduced our speakers, let's first start with Sarah Martinez and Allison. Sarah and Allison, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Can folks hear me? You want to stand?
Do we want to stand? Oh, well,
we can sit.
Is the PowerPoint pulled up? Okay.
Okay, great. Well, like Frankie said, I'm Allison Schilling. I'm a social worker. I'm seeing signs that they want us to stand up.
Okay.
Stand up.
That's fine too.
That's fine.
Before we get started, can you guys hear okay? Okay, so let's use the microphone. Yeah, to make sure.
Okay, how's this? Better? Can I see some thumbs up? Okay, great. Okay, before I say anything else, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. It's truly an honor to be presenting in front of so many people and giving us so much of your precious time, so thank you. Like Frankie said, I'm Allison. I'm a social worker at Community Legal Services. I'm presenting today with my colleague, Sarah Martinez, who's an attorney. Community Legal Services is a civil legal aid organization, and we provide free legal representation to everyone on some civil legal issues, and especially Social Security issues, which we're going to talk to you about today. If you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so a couple of benefits that we're going to go over today, and we're going to go over a lot of information, so definitely write down your questions and we'll try to get to everything we can in the Q&A session. But today we're going to talk about supplemental security income for adults, Social Security Disability Insurance, SSD, concurrent recipients, retirement benefits, survivors benefits, dependents benefits. These are all things that the Social Security Administration, they're all benefits with the SSA. So we're going to go over all of that. Next slide. So just some very brief facts to start. Supplemental security income, also known as SSI, is means tested, which means there are limits on your income and your resources. This is for folks that have no work history, who are either qualified based on their age or based on a disability. We're also going to talk about Social Security insurance, which is earned through working 40 quarters or about 10 years. And this is what you are entitled to from working so hard for so many years. This is retirement, disability, and then survivors or dependents, which is if you are related to someone who worked. And then Medicare is for folks who are 65, and then also for SSD recipients who've been receiving their benefits for 24 months. We'll talk about that, and I think that's it. Yeah.
You can go to the next slide. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about SSI benefits in particular. So Allison mentioned earlier that that's a means-tested benefit, which means that essentially you can't have more than $2,000 in resources, and you can also only have one home and one car to qualify for these benefits. There is a cap on the amount of benefits that you can receive from the Social Security Administration. So per month, right now, the maximum benefit amount is $914. And then for a couple, it's about a little over $1,300. We call it the marriage penalty because unfortunately it's not double the individual amount. It's a little bit less than double the individual amount if you're married. People that can receive SSI benefits include older adults, 65 and older, children, and people who have severe disabilities. So as I mentioned earlier, there are some, first you have to prove to Social Security that you have a qualifying disability, but there are also some financial factors that they take into consideration as well, which are those resource limits, as well as whether or not you own more than one home and more than one car. And then there are also a few other factors that Social Security looks at, such as immigration status or whether or not you're incarcerated. You can go on the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about SSDI, which is the Social Security program for people who have been working, but may have become disabled while they were still of working age and not retirement age yet. And typically, after 10 years of working full-time, you should be fully insured. And then once you apply for the benefit through Social Security, the amount that you receive is based on your work history. And then something else to note about SSDI is you can work at the same time as receiving SSDI, but you're limited to something called substantial gainful activity. And every year they adjust that amount. This year you're allowed to make up to $1,470 in a part-time job on top of receiving your SSDI. But if you receive over that amount, then they would cut your benefits. So the application process for SSI benefits and SSDI benefits is largely similar. Social Security considers the same standards for proving that you have a disability. They also look at whether or not you're engaging in full-time work, which is the substantial gainful activity. And they also want to know that your disability is either going to last for 12 months or result in death. As far as the disability appeals process, you probably all have met somebody who has gone through this process. It takes a long time to get these benefits sometimes. So typically you apply either in person or online, and then if you're denied initially, you can appeal again and somebody will review your application. And then after that, if you're denied again, you have the opportunity for a hearing in front of a judge. That's where Community Legal Services takes a lot of cases. We represent a lot of people in front of administrative law judges for Social Security benefits. Typically, we represent SSI recipients, but there's a possibility you may still qualify for our services, so always reach out if you're looking for an attorney for this type of case. And then the last thing to note is claimants are also reviewed every 3 to 7 years, so even if you're receiving the disability benefits now, Social Security will likely review you in a few years to see if you've improved. Next. So then some people are also what we call concurrent recipients. So these are people who receive both SSI and SSDI benefits. So what this would look like is typically SSI benefits come out on the first of the month, and then a couple days later you get a second payment for your SSDI. But something to remember for this is if you are a concurrent recipient, the SSI rules apply to you, so you would have those resource limits and those income limits. And now I'm going to get a little bit into retirement benefits, because this is actually the largest group of Social Security benefit recipients in the US. And this is also known as old age insurance. Typically, retirement, most people applying for full retirement are between ages of 65 and 67 years old. It depends on what year you were born. You can opt into early retirement at the age of 62, but you will get about a 30% reduction in the benefit that you would typically receive, and then every year that amount would increase when you reach closer to your retirement age. You can also delay your retirement and potentially receive more benefits per month when you do actually retire. But something important to note is you should still be applying for Medicare at 65, even if you opt into retiring later on, because you have to be on Medicare by the age of 65, otherwise you can face higher premiums. Next slide. And then something else important to note about retirement benefits, if you opt into early retirement and decide you would also like to work some, something just to keep note of is if you work over a certain amount, there's a possibility that the early retirement benefit you receive from Social Security will be reduced. And when you're at full retirement age, it no longer matters if you work and you receive the benefit, they won't reduce your benefit amount. Go to the next slide. And then lastly, I'm going to address survivor's benefits. So these are the benefits that you're able to receive based on a family member's work history. So I would think of this as if you're a surviving minor child of a parent, you may be able to receive some benefits on your parent's record. If you're a surviving spouse, you may be able to receive benefits on your husband or wife's record. And lastly, there's benefits for people who were married for at least 10 years, even if you were divorced under certain circumstances. You may still be eligible for survivor's benefits. So to conclude, we all know that it's a little bit hard to contact Social Security sometimes. You might be on the phone for a while, but you can, the offices are open, so you can go into your offices again. During the pandemic, it was very hard to reach out to Social Security because a lot of offices were closed, but they are open again and they are taking appointments. So I would highly recommend going into your office and setting an appointment if you can. And that is all. Thank you for letting me speak with you today.
A lot of great information, right? A lot of questions. Don't forget to fill out those cards, and we'll have someone walk through the aisle to make sure that we can vet your questions and the like, and that you can have your question asked and answered. So to both Sarah and Allison, thank you so very much. Now, Carolyn Colvin's turn. Thank you so much, and share the information you want to bring to us today.
Good evening. I want to say how pleased I am to see so many of you in the audience. This is such an important topic, and I'm glad that you have come out. I also want to thank Max's organization, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, and AARP for convening this. There is so much misinformation in the communities, and there is such a lack of information. I'm going to make some very brief comments. I want to talk to you about the importance of Social Security, especially in the African American community. I want to stress, however, that Social Security is neutral when it comes to race and ethnicity. You will find that workers' calculations of the amount that they're going to receive from Social Security are based on the same criteria regardless of race. But in our community, particularly, Social Security is extremely important. We find that many Black workers do not live long, and many times they become disabled early. When you talk to young people, they think they will never become disabled, but if you look at the data, you will see that there is a significant rate of disability in our community. The second is that many African American workers do not live to retire, and therefore the benefits that are available to their families becomes extremely important. The importance of Social Security is that it guarantees insurance benefits for various stages that one will experience. It can be an early disability where a person becomes disabled before they become eligible for retirement. It can be death, where they have a premature death and will not reach retirement. But then their survivors are eligible for benefits, both their spouses and their children. Social Security has been especially important to me, not just because I've had the privilege of leading the organization, but I had a son who I lost at 34 years of age, and he had 4 young children, and they benefited from that. I was fortunate to have a parent who lived to be 89, had very low wages during the time that she worked, but was able to receive that benefit throughout her retirement years. Many African Americans who work have very low wages, and therefore they are unable to have the traditional savings that you expect to complement the Social Security benefit that they will receive. However, because they experience disability prematurely or death, they in fact will see that their family members will receive a benefit longer. One of the two areas that I've been particularly concerned about, that I've been focusing on in my community, is the survivor benefit. Many individuals who have been married and divorced do not realize that they are entitled to a benefit from their spouse, whether that individual remarries or not. And the second is the young children where their parents experience a premature death. We have thousands of children in our community who are eligible for a survivor's benefit who are not receiving it. My hope is that you will have questions of your own, but you will also think about people in your own community that you may know who perhaps should be receiving a benefit that they're not receiving. Black Americans are more likely to die early because of the illnesses that they have, like diabetes, hypertension, et cetera. But Social Security is a family insurance program, so it's going to provide protection for the family when that worker is disabled or when that worker dies. And that is so very important. I think that the area that is also important is the fact that Social Security is important to young people. They often don't think about it. They think about it only as a retirement program. But you probably know many young people who receive some type of benefit that helps with their education because they lost a parent early, or they became disabled and they were able to get that benefit. So it is important to stress that although the life expectancies are less or are premature for individuals who come from the African American community, they know that their family members, their children and their spouses will have a benefit when they are no longer able to provide for them. So I think I'm going to pause there and see what kinds of questions you have later, and we'll be happy to answer them. So I'll turn it over to Max.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. Can you all hear me all right? You know, I'm sitting next to Carolyn Colvin. I don't know if you realize this, but she ran one of the biggest agencies in the US government, the Social Security Administration, and did a heck of a job and got a lot of very positive comments from members of the Senate and members of the House. So thank you for everything you've done, Carolyn. Let me just also, as Carolyn did, thank the AARP for supporting these forums. This is the second one we've done. The first one was in Richmond, Virginia, a few weeks ago. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because we have partnered with AARP in the past and held town hall meetings around the country on a different subject. So I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm struck by how professional the AARP staff is and really how nice they are, how great they are to work with. So thank you, AARP. So my role today is to clear up some of the misunderstandings, misconceptions. I call them myths. If I weren't in this polite company, I might call them lies about Social Security, and there are plenty of lies and misunderstandings. I think some of them, I don't like to attribute motives to people, but I do think some of those are intentional to undermine the support and faith that people have in Social Security. And it is there. All of the polling we've seen for years shows 80, 90% support for Social Security Democrats, Republicans, independents, across the board. And I do think some of these myths, if you would like to call them, are designed to undermine that faith in the program. And if actually, I thought I was being pretty creative in talking about those myths till I saw this on the table, AARP pamphlet, 5 common Social Security myths. Most of them are in what I've been talking about and what I'm going to talk about. So I think the first one that is the most damaging, and I bet you've heard it, Social Security is going broke. Have you heard that? It's bankrupt. That's a lie. That's not true. And the more people believe that it's going bankrupt, the less support they will show for the program. The only way Social Security could be bankrupt is if we had 100% unemployment, nobody in the country was working, nobody was paying payroll taxes. Obviously, that's not going to ever happen. There is a shortfall in Social Security. If nothing is done by the Congress in the next 10 or 11 years, the money that's been saved up in what's called the reserve, the trust fund, will be able to, and payroll taxes that come in, will only be able to pay about 80% of benefits. That would mean your checks would be cut by 20% in about 11 years. We can't let that happen, and I don't believe it's going to happen, but that's a very different proposition than saying it's bankrupt, because when you hear bankrupt, you think it's gone. You don't have anything there, and it's a lot harder to create a program like Social Security than to fix it, and I do think it can be fixed. And then the other myth, and I've heard it for years, there's no money there, right? Just a bunch of IOUs. That's not true. The money that comes in that is beyond what is needed to pay benefits each month is saved. It's put in a reserve. It's called a trust fund. There's almost $3 trillion in that trust fund. And that will be drawn down over the next 11 years to make sure everybody gets their benefits. And there is no cash. I don't know if you remember, but President Bush, when he was reelected, Dan Adcock, who's our Director of Government Affairs, we were sitting in our conference room. He came to the podium. He said, I've been reelected. I have a mandate, and I'm going to use that mandate to privatize Social Security. Remember that? And it didn't go anywhere. Couldn't even get a vote in the House or the U.S. Senate. But what he did is I think he undermined the program. He went to some vault in West Virginia and opened it, and there was no cash. There was no trillions of dollars there. Well, of course, this money, it wouldn't make any sense to have all that cash laying around anywhere. It's invested in government bonds. It's the safest investment. It's not the best interest you can ever get, but it is backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, and it will be there in the future. A related myth is the government raids the Social Security program to pay for other programs in government. But as I just explained, these bonds replace the actual cash. They're rolled over almost on a daily basis. They earn interest. And one way I think it's very useful to look at it is at the beginning of COVID, the beginning of the pandemic, when we had a lot of unemployment, not enough money came into Social Security to pay everybody their benefits. But the bonds were redeemed. Everybody got their benefits. Nobody was denied a Social Security check during COVID. And not only that, the size of the trust fund grew because there's interest, not the best interest, as I said, but interest on these bonds. So it's important to understand how the program works, especially if you go to town hall meetings with members of Congress, and they start to talk about some of these myths. You can ask some questions and ask them to explain what the difference is between the fact and the myth. Social Security is not an entitlement. It's not welfare. You pay into the program while you're working, every paycheck, right? That money is invested, as I said. And a lot of people, this is really related to what I said a minute ago about President Bush and the whole effort to privatize. You know, you take your money and you invest it and you'll do much better. That's not true. If you invested in the stock market, you don't know where the market's going to be when you retire. A few months ago, I called my 401k, which we have in our company, I called it a 201k because I lost about half of it. You don't know when the market is going to go up or down. You know Social Security will always be there and has never denied eligible beneficiaries. The last two things quickly. Social Security, yes, it's for seniors, it's for retirees, but it's for families. If you are a 27-year-old worker, for an example, with a spouse and 2 children, you have right now, never mind what happens when you retire, when you turn 67, you have right now almost $2 million in value in life and disability insurance. It's there automatically with Social Security. You know, you don't know whether you're going to need it or not, but it is there through the Federal Insurance Contribution Act. That's what FICA stands for, Federal Insurance Contribution Act. It funds old age survivor and disability programs. Millions of children get by in life because Social Security is there for them in the event they had a working parent that was disabled or died young. The same is true for spouses who get survivor benefits. Finally, very quickly, you will hear in the media, not from Frankie, but you will hear in the media that people are living longer. We should raise the retirement age. It's 67 now for everybody. You're going to hear that. We should raise it. People are living longer. Look, just because people are living longer doesn't mean people can work longer. And where are all these jobs that people are supposed to get? They're not there. So, you know, it's not a legitimate argument, in my opinion. And keep in mind that raising the retirement age, a lot of members of Congress might say, well, we're not for cutting benefits, but we're for raising the retirement age. That is a cut in benefits. You have to wait longer to get your benefits. Your benefits are going to be less during the time you're receiving benefits. 2 final quick things, and I'm sure you hear them. Undocumented workers, they're draining Social Security. That's a lie. There are undocumented workers who get a phony card, a phony number. They end up paying payroll tax. Their employer pays FICA tax. But guess what? They'd never get benefits because they don't have a legitimate number. There was a study a few years ago that millions of dollars more went into Social Security because undocumented workers were paying and they couldn't get benefits. So don't let that prejudice the way you look at undocumented workers or Social Security. Finally, members of Congress since 1984 do pay Social Security. Carolyn, we know that. We heard that for years that members of Congress don't pay, but they do pay. So, and if you want more information, get this booklet. It says it in black and white, and it's an excellent summary of some of the points I've been raising. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you.
Great information. That is great information. And I'm sure there are many of you that can attest to this as I can. I think that enough of us said we pay, they take enough out of my check every 2 weeks that I can keep a couple people on Social Security by myself. And give them a round of applause again. We are so looking forward to it. And I have gone through your questions. They are phenomenal. We're going to get to as many of those questions as we can. We want to make sure that the AARP staff and others are still collecting it if you happen to have a question, make sure that you just stick it up a little bit, and they will make sure that they come by and get it from you. So Carolyn, as we get the Q&A started, I wanted to start with you. And of course, we're talking about the delays. We mentioned that earlier in the phone calls and the like. I think I'm getting some feedback here, but you guys work with me. We know that it can take years as well to get an answer on disability claims. You spent many years at the agency. Can you give us an insider's view of what's happening right now with the agency and operations? Can you give us kind of a peek-see as to what's happening right now today?
Well, clearly, I think we would all agree that service is not where we'd like it to be within the agency right now. There's a great level of underfunding in the agency, and it does take staff to be able to process these claims that come forth. We also know that as people age, they're more likely to have a disability, and the number of individuals applying for disability has drastically gone up, which was not unexpected. But at the same time, the processing time, the amount of time it takes for individuals to get their initial decision from Social Security has significantly increased. Many individuals who apply for disability die before they receive their first decision. It is certainly something that none of us would want to see, but I think that under the circumstances, the agency is dedicated to processing these cases as quickly as they can. And I would just urge people to continue to follow up and ask what the status is, and to be patient and not give up.
So Max, this question is for you. If Congress does not act and protect Social Security over the next 10 years, and we're talking about 10 years specifically, and people, is it true that people can see Social Security cut by 20%? That's about $4,000 a year on average. What do you think it might take for Congress to pass the partnership and produce real solutions to protect Social Security for the long term, not just the short term? And you kind of spoke to that.
What would it take for Congress to solve this shortfall? You know, I can say backbone, I can say determination, political will, and that's all true. But I think, unfortunately, we're going to have to get closer to that point. Because if you watch some of the activities in Washington, you have to almost get to the crisis to solve something. You remember all the politics around raising the debt limit. We got within days of defaulting on our federal debt. So the last time the Congress, it was in the early 1980s, the Congress and the White House got together to have real reform and extend the solvency of the Social Security program by many decades. We were about 6 months away from not having enough money to pay everybody. And I hope we don't get to 6 months away. I hope we do it much sooner. It should be done sooner. There are some very good proposals that we support that would extend the solvency of the program. And we're doing everything we can. I know AARP and other groups have been working on this to try to get some meaningful action before we get to right to the edge of having to cut benefits. And so I'm optimistic, but we'll keep working at it.
Great, thank you so much. So Allison, and to Sarah, 2 questions. Sarah, to you, how long do you think it will take for a claim for Social Security disability insurance benefits? And for Sarah, how can people with disabilities maximize the chances of getting approved relatively quickly for disability insurance benefits? So who'd ever like to start? We've got 2 mics here.
So what I will say about Social Security applications is they vary in time. Once you apply, it takes a few months to have the organization, the agency review it. But then after that, if you're denied, there's likely a long appeals process ahead of you. I've seen some of these cases go for years. I've seen multiple appeals. I've seen multiple hearings for the same person in front of an administrative law judge. I would say that typically, like, the quickest I've seen someone get on Social Security after applying for benefits is around a year. In an ideal situation, and that's if Social Security is able to collect all of your medical records. So that's important, just making a list of all of your doctors, all of the medications you take, if you have a doctor willing to write a statement on your behalf, but really having those medical records in order and knowing like the names of your doctors and all of your medications can help increase your chances of getting on Social Security when you initially apply, so that you don't have to go through that long appeals process. Because once you get into the appeals, that's when we see it taking a year and a half, if not more, to receive benefits. So we also do stuff called impact litigation. So on top of representing individuals at the administrative level, we meet with Social Security quarterly to help advocate for better legislation as far as like resource limits and things like that, because we also agree that it takes way too long to process claims. Especially for SSI claims, there's far too many limits on income and resources that are just unfair, that haven't been changed in decades. So we are actively working with Social Security. We meet with them quarterly. Monthly, we meet with the people that review applications to discuss the application process. And every time Social Security changes something with their policies, we engage in something called commenting on rulemaking. So we always submit comments to the Social Security Administration when we think that they're passing some type of regulation that we don't think benefits the community. So on top of just representing people individually, we do larger advocacy to try to get some of these laws changed so that the application process doesn't take this long.
All right, thank you so much. Did you want to respond at all? Okay, we'll follow up. All right, so we're going to take some of your questions. We're going to, as we possibly can. Carolyn, this was for you. If we're going to start, we might as well go straight for some of the great questions. You ready? So where's Dale? Well, maybe you might not want to raise your hand yet. Okay, so here's the question. If my wife dies before me, will her Social Security continue in part or in whole to me? Are there qualifications as her husband?
It doesn't matter which spouse dies first, as long as they both have worked, but you do not receive the full amount that the individual was receiving. But you could perhaps be eligible for the spousal benefit. But I think that I would say that each individual situation is different, and you really should speak to someone at the Social Security Administration about your particular case to determine whether or not you are eligible or whether or not the spouse is eligible. But there is a spousal benefit for the survivor of the deceased worker. Did I answer your question?
Okay, that was for Dale. This question is from Elise for Max. What are senior organizations doing about taxation of Social Security benefits? What are senior organizations doing about taxation of Social Security benefits?
Well, I don't know how many of you have paid taxes on your Social Security benefits, and you don't like that, right? I don't blame you. We have been trying for a long time, our organization and others, to change the rules on the taxation of benefits. One thing that I think makes a lot of sense is to raise the threshold in the amount of money you are earning before you have to pay a tax on your Social Security benefits. And I think there's a good chance that will happen, and that will, a lot of those hands that went up won't be going up once that threshold is raised. It hasn't been changed for a very long time, and just like, you know, bracket creep, people are pushed up into that because of that threshold needing to be changed. And there's legislation in the Congress, in the House, and in the Senate that would do just that. We're lobbying for that.
All right. Can you just, as a footnote, respond to this as well as kind of part two of the question? And how large is the tax in terms of the money? How high can it get? Is it a one-time tax?
Well,
Does it continue to go up and increase?
It's impossible to give a number because it depends on your income and what it is in that given year. So there's no definitive number.
All right. So we have quite a few questions, and I'm getting to as many, vetting some of them, because some of the questions they've responded to already. So I want to make sure we get to some where they have not asked some of these questions yet. This again is for Carolyn. Is it a good idea to work and get Social Security after reaching your retirement age, the full retirement age? Is it a good idea to work and get Social Security after reaching the full retirement age? In your opinion, I'm assuming Karen is saying, is it a good idea to work and get Social Security after reaching full retirement age?
Well, I would certainly say it's an individual decision, but if you're able to work and you want to work, I see no reason that you should not continue to work. When you are below the full retirement age, the amount of work that you do reduces your Social Security benefit. But once you reach full retirement age, the amount of money that you earn will not impact your Social Security benefit. It will not reduce it. So I would say, yes, it's a good idea to continue to work if you want to, once you reach full retirement age.
Okay, great. And I think this question would be for, and I'm going to try this as well. I'm going to vary away from what's on my card just a little bit, but to Sarah, Allison, and Carolyn. But the question is, how do you find out, because I think you mentioned this, how do you find out about credit for your missing years from your employer and to get records? Is this Shalia? Am I asking your question about right? Yeah, how do you find out about missing records and so that you can get credit for those missing years? Because we want all our money.
Yep. So what I would first suggest is going to your local Social Security office to ask them for something called a work history report, because based off of that, it'll show you what years Social Security has a record of how much you made and where you worked. And that's where you're able to determine, are they missing some of my work credits? And then that's when you can try to find other supporting documents to show that you actually worked that year, such as tax documents, pay stubs, bank statements, things of that nature. But I always suggest first going to Social Security to get that work history report so that you can then match your records against that to really determine if they're miscounting some of your work credits.
Let me tell you an easier way to do it. You know the difficulty of being able to get into a Social Security office now, the waiting time. If you have a My Social Security account, because I looked at mine last night just to make sure. If you go to Social Security, which is ssa.gov, and open up a My Social Security account, it will give you a list of how much you earned each year of your work time. And you are able to then look to see where you think there's an error. And then, of course, providing the documentation that was mentioned would be good. But how many of you have a My Social Security account? All right, so you know if you look at that, it shows you your earnings record. You can also do some calculations about your earnings, etc.
Carolyn, to that question, hold on. Here's what we want to do. If you put your hand in the air and wave it like you just don't care, somebody will give you the card. If you have a card, we're going to announce a 5-minute warning right now. So we're going to run through these questions really quickly. I did see someone with a card here, and I'm going through them to make sure that we don't repeat questions already asked, but we can take just a few. But you mentioned too that, Carolyn, I think maybe every year, every 2 years, because I still like a piece of paper. I don't want to go online for everything. And it tells me everything from year to year to year to year to year. You can use that as well and look at your tax documents and compare your tax document with that document if in the event there's an issue.
Yes.
I keep all those
Yes,
pieces
you
of
can.
paper.
The problem with the written document that we mail out, you only get that, what is it, age 60? But for those of you who are younger who want to know what your earnings record is, if you have a My Social Security account, you can go in and you can get that information.
Yes, I turned 60 this year. I keep all my paperwork. That's how I knew that. So she just called me out. So yeah, I think you get that document at age 60. I'm like, okay, Carolyn. So here's a question. Will Social Security benefits keep up with the cost of living in the future? For Carolyn and Max. Max?
Well, the question is the cost of living adjustment, the COLA. You all know what a COLA is? You think the COLA is enough? Well, I agree with you. And the last two COLAs have been very large because inflation was so high. And really the last two have been the highest probably in many years. But they don't make up for the fact that the COLA for many years has been too low. I think in 3 out of the last 11 years, the COLA was 0. If you're getting Social Security, you know that, right? Your check didn't change from one year to the other. And the reason that has happened is that the formula that is used to develop the COLA is wrong. It does not look at how inflation is impacting an older person, someone on Social Security. So what we support, our organization supports, is changing the formula so that when inflation is measured from one year to the next, you look at those things that seniors rely on. You know, the Social Security check is supposed to keep up with inflation as it affects you, not a wage earner, which is the way the formula is now set up. So it's what we call it the CPI elderly, a consumer price index measurement for the elderly that would put more weight on that market basket of goods and services that seniors rely on, like healthcare, like prescription drugs. And that would raise the COLA not just for a couple of years, but consistently over time.
Very good. Moving really quickly. Crystal. Crystal's question is, do I need to give up all of my Social Security to receive my Social Security when I turn 65 in January? Question for Sarah and Allison. So the question is, do I need to give up all of my Social Security? Crystal, where are you? Are you here? Go. Do I need to give up my SSI to receive Social Security when I turn 65? Is that better? Is that your question? Thank you, Crystal.
So to address the first part, I would first go online and look at what year your actual full retirement age is, because it's not necessarily 65. It could be, I've seen people have like 66 in 7 months. Like, it's very specific to the year that you were born. And once you know what your full retirement age is, you should be able to transition from your SSDI, if that's the benefit you're receiving, to retirement benefits pretty seamlessly. But it would depend on the year that you're actually at full retirement age. Now that for everyone,
could you repeat her question so everybody else can hear what she said?
Yes, she asked if she should be applying for Medicare at 65, and 65 is the age that everyone should apply for Medicare. And we actually recommend that you apply about 3 months ahead of time, because there's some paperwork that you might have to submit. You know, things happen a couple months before you actually reach age 65, because what can happen is if you apply later on, your Part B premiums could be higher than what they would have if you would have applied at 65.
Okay, great. Last question, and I think this is important, and I think the question came over from here, and I'm going to try and read it if not, and it doesn't have a name on it, but it says, why is the cutoff date for children approaching 18 and not the date of the month or the end of the 18th birthday? Why, if a family of children, say with benefits, get to be subtracted when the oldest turns 18? Whose question is that? All right, when the oldest turns 18 and it gets wiped out, plus not added to the children that are left alive. Am I reading your question so far? Right? Why isn't the remaining children don't get divided with remaining children until their 18th birthday? Is that making sense? Could you just speak up for me? Could you just stand? All right, was this your question? Was this your question? Could you stand and just ask your question? Thank you. Okay, can you answer that? You can't, hold on, could you give me this microphone? Yes.
I think Social Security Representative Richard.
Richard, could we do two things? Can we get that microphone? And all, because I think one of the things I hear all the time, covering it on my show, is people understanding what their children are entitled to as it relates to Social Security. And I wanted to kind of end with that question because it speaks, yes, for him. But could you give that mic to her, and then you can give me this mic, and I'll give it to Rich. So could she be clear on asking her question, and then you could use this microphone? Yes. Just so that we can, there we go.
Hopefully it's clear.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the example.
Rich, good. Go.
My husband passed, and myself and my children was eligible for Social Security benefits. And so I had, say, 3 children. The oldest one turned 18. And if the total benefits amount was $3,000, why isn't, number one, going to the oldest child's birth date? They cut off before the birthday come up.
Okay. And that might be a little more detailed, but let me see if you can answer.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Well, what you're referring to is what's called the family maximum provision. There's a maximum amount of benefits that can be paid on one family's record. Right. Now, generally what will happen if you have multiple children receiving a benefit, they each receive in proportion. If one child turns 18, then the family max is then divided among the remaining kids. So let's say, well, I'm just saying, let's say if it was done correctly, let's say it's a $2,000 total for the family and there's 4 children. They would each be receiving $500 each. If one of those children turns 18, then the remaining 3 children would divide the $2,000. So it reapportions how much they would get.
That's exactly what I'm asking because it didn't work like that.
Okay, well, if you want either to give me information later on or you want to check with your office, they should be able to run that down for you and tell you what the numbers are.
Great.
It's a family maximum benefit, though.
I understand that.
Great. Thank you both. And if you need more additional information, our guests will be around. Can you give our guests a great big round of applause and yourselves? Thank you for the great question. If we didn't get to your question, Richard will be available from the Social Security Administration, who's here, to answer them before leaving this evening. And while our time is up, don't leave just yet. We're about to have a drawing. Everybody say yay. Really nice drawing. Yay. Now, I don't know, maybe some of you hit the lottery recently. Are you here? No? So we've got some great gifts that we're going to be raffling off. But before I hand off the floor to Bill Johnson Walsh, AARP Pennsylvania State Director, I wanted to tell you what a pleasure it has been spending this evening with you. I couldn't think of anywhere to be other than with you incredible people. Thank you so much. I've had a wonderful time. And I don't hope, I'm saying thank you so much. Continue to listen to one of the most historic radio stations celebrating 73 years in the city of Philadelphia, WDAS-FM radio. And although it's been 10 years this year that I've been here. Time has flown by. And I thank you guys so much for embracing Rosa and Herman's daughter and become a Philadelphian. Thank you all so very much. Bill? Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's great. I want to thank the panelists and thank Frankie for doing an outstanding job. I also want to thank all of you. You know, you made it tonight. Hopefully you were able to have fun, you got some food, and you learned a little bit tonight. And that's what we wanted. That's what the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare wanted, and that's what AARP wanted. So thank you very much. So I have 5 Visa cards, 4 $50 ones and 1 $100 one, and I'll be drawing right this second. I will shake it up, don't you worry. Got to put the glasses on. Okay, the first $50 one is 313-0392. I want to check. I need to check it though, just to be fair for everybody. 30392. Great. All right.
Yay.
I'm shaking. I'm shaking. 313-0413. All right. It's another 50. That's 0413, Dan.
All right.
All right,
Congratulations.
perfect. I will shake again. Sorry to have my back to you all. Apologize. The next one is 313-0414. 0414.
Oh, wow.
Someone else shake. You pull the next one. I'm going to have someone else shake it up right now. All right, 313, and this one is 0397. Do you want to? All right, this is for the $100 one, the last one we have here.
All right, the drum
And this is
roll.
from the commissioner. The commissioner did this one.
This is the
So
drum
don't
roll.
yell at me. This one is 472-6057. No one? 472-6057? No? All right, gotta pick another one. All right, we'll pick another one. Wait, do you have that one? 472-6057. Nope. Okay.
They're like going once, going twice, gone. Okay, next.
All right. We're back to the 313s. 313-0412. All right. Yeah. That was it. Thank you all very much. And we're going to double check. That's 0412, Dan. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. You did a great job.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.